Good morning. How is everybody doing? Good. We're excited to have you at Leesburg Christian Church this morning. I'd love it if you'd stand and sing with me. Who breaks the power of sin and darkness, whose love is mighty and so much stronger, the King of glory, the King above all kings, who shakes the whole earth with holy thunder, who leaves us breathless in awe and wonder, the King of glory, the King above all kings. This is amazing grace. This is unfailing love, that you would take my place, that you would bear my cross, you lay down your life, that I would be set free. Oh, Jesus, I sing for all that you've done for me. Who brings our chaos back into order, who makes it your fair a son and daughter, the King of glory, the King of glory, who rules the nations with truth and justice, shines like the sun in all of its brilliance, the King of glory, the King above all kings. This is amazing grace. This is unfailing love, that you would take my place, that you would bear my cross, you lay down your life, that I would be set free. Oh, Jesus, I sing for all that you've done for me. Let's sing it together. Worthy, worthy is the Lamb who was slain, worthy is the King who conquered the grave, worthy is the Lamb who was slain, worthy is the King who conquered the grave, worthy is the Lamb who was slain, worthy is the King who conquered the grave, worthy is the Lamb who was slain, worthy, worthy, worthy. Oh, this is amazing grace. This is unfailing love, that you would take my place, that you would bear my cross, you lay down your life, that I would be set free. Oh, Jesus, I sing for all that you've done for me. Yeah, yeah. Walking around these walls, I thought by now they'd fall, but you have never failed me yet. Waiting for change to come, the battle's won. For you never failed me yet. Your promise still stands. Your promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness, your faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. This is my confidence. You never failed me yet. I know the night won't last. Your word will come to pass. My heart will sing your praise again. Jesus, you're still enough. Keep me within your love. My heart will sing your praise again. Your promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness, your faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. This is my confidence. You never fail. Your promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness, your faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. This is my confidence. You never failed me yet. I've seen you move. I've seen you move. You move the mountains, and I believe I see you do it again. You made a way where there was no way, and I believe I see you do it again. I've seen you move. You move the mountains, and I believe I see you do it again. You made a way where there was no way, and I believe I see you do it again. I've seen you move. You move the mountains, and I believe I see you do it again. You made a way where there was no way, and I believe I see you do it again. I see you do it again. Your promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness, your faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. This is my confidence. You never fail. Your promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness, your faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. This is my confidence. You never failed me yet. You never failed me yet. And I never will forget. You never failed me yet. And I never will forget.
Happy New Year to you. Good to see you. Good to see you. What in the world? What is that noise? Does anybody have that ringtone? You kind of recognize a little bit, right? Because whenever you hear your phone ring, isn't it true that pretty much your whole life just kind of comes to a standstill? I would never have that phone ring, though, or that phone ringtone. But it's true. It's kind of weird. We're kind of like dogs when it comes to our phones. We've kind of been trained to kind of respond to them. Have you ever noticed that? Whenever our phone rings, we leap over furniture, small buildings with a single bound, knock kids over, forget that we're driving. Because when our phone rings, even if you don't want to answer it, you got to see who it is, right? And that's just how life is. We have a love-hate relationship with our phones, I think. But we just realize we can't hardly function without them today. Even though now, it's interesting, health experts are now telling us and warning us that spending too much time on your phone can actually cause emotional and physical problems. It's really kind of weird. But when our phone rings, we've got to answer it. As a matter of fact, this is interesting. There is a new medical condition I never thought I'd live to hear that people are suffering from today. It's called phantom ringing. It's when people hear their phone ringing when it's really not. But they anticipate it ringing, so they're constantly picking up their phones. Oh, I thought I heard my phone ring. Phantom ringing. To the point where it's becoming very stressful and distracting for a lot of people, especially during work time. And then there are those times, and this is the thing that this is that tension point for me. You'll be sitting down eating with someone or visiting with someone, and you're in a conversation with them. And their phone rings. And you're in the middle of this conversation, and you got eye contact going on, and they're talking to you, and then they look over to the phone. And it keeps ringing, and they look over to the phone. And there's that moment in time where you wonder, are they going to abandon me in order to pick up that phone because they can't stand it to find out who it is and whatever it is that they want? You ask the question, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Well, here's the thing. I don't know about you, but phone calls in my life come in two categories. Expected and unexpected, right? And you're probably the same as I am. By unexpected, I mean it's that call that you didn't see coming, and when it does come, it's never really anything good. You probably can relate to that a little bit. I like expected calls. The expected calls I get are either from the staff here or from my friends and family. I like those kind of calls. I anticipate them. I look forward to them because they usually have something good they want to share with me. I like those kind of calls, but the unexpected calls, not so much, at least in my world. I don't know about yours. Occasionally, an unexpected call can be good. Maybe it's somebody offering you a new job or something like that. You know, that could be a good unexpected call. But when a child that you have calls at a very unusual time, particularly like in the middle of the night, that call is never because they want to tell you that they made the dean's list, right? There's just no good calls at 2 a.m. Very, very, very few. Especially when you pick it up and the ID says police or hospital. When you get that call from something like that, you kind of hold your breath for a moment, because you know when that call comes that whatever is said on the other end of that phone call, your life is about to change. It may never, ever be the same again. I say all that to lead into this little series that I'm going to enter into today. This is kind of a setup for the next 3 weeks, but I've entitled it, Please Don't Interrupt Me. Please don't interrupt me, which is kind of an ironic statement. It's about when our life gets interrupted and everything that we have going kind of comes to a screeching halt. And by the end of this, you'll know why I'm approaching this new year this way. It's about when all that we counted on or needed to happen in our life, for whatever reason, it doesn't happen. And then the question is what are we going to do? What are we going to do then? And here's the other thing about this. Here's the other question about this. Where is God at 2 a.m.? And can I count on Him for anything when the phone call comes? Because whether it's 2 a.m. or 2 p.m., sometimes the reality is that life gets interrupted, and until we figure out what we're going to do, our plans, our peace, our normalcy, it all gets put on hold until we figure that out, till we figure out, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? So for the next couple of weeks, we're going to look at what happens when important areas of our life get interrupted. Now, I'm not a prophet, but I'm going to tell you, I have no idea what 2022 is going to bring, but I will guarantee you this. Your life's going to get interrupted. Mark it down. Now, this is not going to be a how-to series, as a lot of times they are, because even if you do all the how-tos perfect, your life can still get interrupted. It doesn't have anything to do with that. You can have the best marriage in the world and your marriage still gets interrupted. You can have the best family and parents in the world and all that kind of stuff, and things happen. You can exercise and diet really well, and you can still get sick. We know that all too well. You can show up and you can be the first one there and the last one to leave and work hard every day and still lose your job. Happens all the time. You do not, as I say all the time, you don't get a vote on whether the phone call comes and interrupts everything in your life. Now, here's the good news. The good news is that our Savior, Jesus Christ, promised us some things in the middle of all this. And He said, whenever your life gets interrupted, you can be sure of this. And He made a couple of promises. And one of them we don't really like, John 16:33. He said, in this world, you're going to have trouble. Thanks. Needed that, right? But it's true. So the question isn't if I'm going to have trouble. The question is what am I going to do when I actually have it? How am I going to respond to it? Now, not everything that we talk about over the next couple of weeks is going to directly apply to you. I want you to understand that straight up. I think that if you'll hang in there with me through this, though, that the principle of everything that we talk about will be very applicable. But I will have to say this. This is just, in setting this up, I think this is the first series of messages that I've ever done where I can honestly say, I hope that nothing I talk about over the next 4 weeks applies to you, ever. Ever. I hope that everything that I say over the next 4 weeks is totally irrelevant to your life. It's an odd thing to say, isn't it? But I think you're going to figure out why that is. Because I also know this. We don't get to pick when and if the phone call comes and our life gets interrupted. So I think if you are sitting here today and you think that some of the stuff that you've seen happen to other people will never happen to you, I really do hope that you're right. But just in case, I hope that you'll file some of this stuff away that we're going to talk about over the next few weeks, because my opinion, my strong opinion through experiences is that you're going to need it in 2022. Okay? There was a man by the name of Peter in the New Testament, close associate of Jesus, who had been a fisherman, responded to the call of Jesus, followed him. And when he started following Jesus, there was a point in his life, and we have this recorded for us in Scripture, I'm just going to paraphrase it, that he looks at Jesus and he promises him something. He says, Jesus, I'm going to love you forever and I'm going to stay with you even if nobody else does. You can count on that. And when he said that, I truly believe that he could not imagine a situation that would arise where he would look back at Jesus and say, you know what, I don't want to be with you anymore. But we all know the story. There was a moment in time while warming himself by a fire that Peter defected for a short time. And here's why I remind you of that story. When we get into a relationship with someone else, we get into the same mindset, right? Let me just kind of remind you, in case it's been so long you've forgotten. You date. And you spend time with the other person that you are dating, and maybe you get serious, and maybe you even get married. And when that happens, you can't imagine a situation that would ever arise in that relationship where you would look back at it and say, well, we aren't together anymore. And you mean it. You can't imagine that. And that's a good thing. You think early in a relationship that you'll never become another marriage or relationship statistic. And so you go to work on it and you work hard and you give extra effort because you never want to be that couple that used to be, right? But that's not where it stops by any means. We do the same thing with regard to our communication, especially in close, intimate relationships like this. Initially, when you get into a relationship with someone, you love to talk to them. I know it's hard to remember, isn't it? You used to love to talk to one another. And you would talk for hours about everything, your dreams, your hopes, your fears. And you were never in a hurry to quit talking initially. And you can't and couldn't imagine a day that was coming where you would pick up your phone, see that it was them, and the first thing in your mind was, oh crap, what do they want? But you've had that feeling since. Listen, I hope that kind of thing never happens to you. But it could. Same thing happens in our sex lives. I always love talking about sex. It always gets real quiet in the building. What's he going to say? Some of you started out in your relationship with that one and only other one, and you thought, wow, it's always going to be like this, or it's only going to get better than this. And if that's you, all I can say is God bless you. God bless you. Because you could not imagine on the onset that there would be weeks and months and years as if there were no sexual intimacy at all, and if there was, it was only out of obligation or duty, or on a special occasion where it was a have-to situation, not out of passion and not out of desire. And when you first start out, you're sure that's never going to happen to you. You're never going to be in that category. And when you initially start, you mean that with everything in you. You mean it in your heart. I'm talking about in this series and today, what do you do when life doesn't turn out and it even can fall apart in a way that you never saw coming? What do you do? Especially with the most significant relationship or relationships in your life, when they kind of come to a screeching halt? Specifically, what do you do when something interrupts what you thought was going to last forever? What do you do when, for example, when the love of your life looks back at you and says, I don't love you, or I never really ever loved you, or worse yet, I love someone else? What about the people in your life that you always assumed that were going to be there for you and they're not there anymore because they left or they died? The question is, when you have those things happen to you, the question isn't what went wrong. You know what went wrong. You know that. Now, you can analyze it, but you basically know what went wrong. The question that you and I have to deal with is, what are we going to do now? What are we going to do now? It's kind of like that 2 a.m. phone call you get from the police or the hospital, that thing that wasn't supposed to happen. And when you get it, you can be mad, you can scream, you can cry, you can cuss, you can respond however you want. But eventually, you're going to have to come back and answer the question, what am I going to do now? Once you get through all that. Or maybe what we should ask is, what should I do now? Because if you do what you feel like doing, it probably will not take you to a good place. Somebody will either be coming to get you out of jail or to post bond or something crazy like that. Now, as a minister of many years, I get to hear a lot of good stories. That's the positive end of this thing. I get to hear a lot of good stories about how sick people get better, how marriages get mended because of the power of resurrection power in their life, power of God. I get to hear a lot of good stories, and I get to hear a lot of other stories also. And I think to myself, when I look out at you all every week, and I know some of your stories and some of the things that you've been through, and you share them with me in confidence, I think to myself sometimes, even though I don't verbalize it, I'd be mad too. If that happened to me, I'd be upset as well. As a matter of fact, many times when I see what you're going through, I think to myself and question myself, could I go through that and handle it if it happened to me? Because that's what life really is all about, isn't it? It's about response. It's not so much about action as it is reaction to what life does and has in store for you. So rather than listen to what I have to say, because what I have to say probably wouldn't be good, I want to turn our attention to God's Word, who has something better for us. Now, there are a bunch of Bible verses that we could point to in all of this, and I've already touched on marriage and relationship a little bit. This is not a marriage message per se. There's a lot of good Bible verses on marriage. I'm going to leave that up to John when he comes and talks about marriage down the road, down the pike here in several weeks. And they're good and they're true, but that's really not the takeaway here today. The verses I want to talk about have really nothing to do with marriages going bad, but they do have everything in some regard to do with that, along with anything else that goes bad in your life. Because no matter what interrupts you in your life, all of us are going to be left asking the question, what am I going to do now? So I want to turn your attention toward a psalm, and I want to give you the challenge this week, in the first week of the new year, to read Psalm 119. Psalm 119. It's your homework assignment. It's short, it's brief, but it's powerful, and it's very reflective, and I hope that you'll take the time to do this. Now, Psalm 119, we don't know exactly, concretely for sure, who wrote this psalm. We assume that David wrote it. I assume that David wrote it because as I read it, I think you'll agree with me, it probably was him. Because people who write stuff like this only write it when their marriages blow up, or when a child dies, or when they've kind of on the other side of committing a crime, or when their children grow up and turn on them. And all those things happened to David, which is why I make the assumption, and a lot of other scholars do too, that David wrote this. So I'm reading it from that perspective, but we're just going to break down a couple of phrases and look at them and make an application at the end I hope is powerful for you. In Psalm 119, verse 25, the psalmist writes this, I am laid low in the dust. Let me stop right there. I am laid low in the dust. You ever feel like that? You ever felt lower than dirt? You ever felt like, you've been knocked down flat on the ground on your face and you don't even know if you're going to be able to get back up? You actually literally feel like sometimes you're going to die. Now, the person that's writing this, let me remind you, as we're going to find out here in just a moment, he loves God and he believes that God loves him. But he still got knocked down. Love between you and God does not keep you from getting knocked down. That's the point. I've heard a lot of preachers over the years that will stand up in front of people and say, well, now if you love God enough and have enough faith, and you'll never have any problems. Phooey. Not true. Not true. Well, he goes on. He says, I'm laid low in the dust. And here he goes. And here's his plea to God. Preserve my life according to your word. I give an account of my ways. I'm making a confession. And you answer me. Teach me your decrees. Teach me the right way to go. In other words, God, I've heard your promise. I've read that you will take care of me. I mean, you're sitting here today, right? God, I've heard them stand on that platform many times and say that you're going to take care of me. And I go to church often and I support it with my money and my time. And that long-haired country boy stands on the platform and tells me every week that you're going to take care of me, but today it's different. This is my problem. This isn't them, this is me. This has come to my house and my world, and my life is falling apart, and I need you to show up. I need you to do something. It literally means here that preserve my life part literally means I need you to save my life because I feel like I'm dying. So if you're here today and you want to take one note, you might want to write this one down. It's a good promise of God. Here's one. When you get laid out in the dust and feel like you are, here's what I will tell you, according to this psalm and many other scriptures as well. God will keep you alive when you feel like nothing else will. He'll keep you going. He's saying, listen, the psalmist, I may look good on the outside, but my roof is about to collapse, and I feel bitterness, and I feel anger, and I feel hurt. So he says, preserve my life according to your word, which I love that word preserve. It literally means prop me up, like as if you're weak. You ever get so knocked down that or have such bad news you get weak and you can't hardly walk and stand, and it's like people on the side are holding you up? That's the word for what God will do to us. He will prop us up because we can't stand on our own. You ever made a prayer in that condition? You ever gave a prayer in that condition? I hope you don't have to. I hope it never applies to you. But I just want to remind you today that in 2022, if something happens and you feel like that, He can prop you up. Verse 29, this is so key. He makes a plea to God. Keep me from deceitful ways. Be gracious to me and teach me your law. Now, if you've ever had your life interrupted in a major way, you understand perfectly what he's saying here. Because when you go through a crisis, when your life really gets interrupted, you're going to be very tempted to do some things that you're not normally tempted to do. You're going to be very tempted to do things that you feel that are right on a certain level and even maybe make some logical sense, but they're not. They're a lie. This is the way our adversary Satan works. And you're going to be tempted to believe the lies of other people and what they're telling you to do and giving you advice, and they're going to tell you lies, and here's why they're going to tell you lies, because they're trying to justify their own behavior because misery loves company. And you're going to be tempted to walk down a path that feels right, but it's not. Be warned. Let's apply this for a moment going back to relationships. You're going to try to convince yourself that it was just a one-time fling or an affair. Didn't mean anything. It'll go away and it'll never happen again. But it never quite plays out that simply, does it? You're going to hear that from someone else, probably, that if you had done something differently, then that tragedy would not have happened. It would not have taken place, like it's all on you. And you're going to believe that, and you're going to blame yourself. Could you have done things differently? Absolutely, everybody can. But what you did has nothing to do with their decisions, and if you believe otherwise, or their response, then it's a lie. Got to be careful. Someone's going to tell you, in bad advice, to go out and do something else to someone, and as a result, that will help even the score between you and them. And then you'll feel better. You won't. You'll complicate it more. It's a lie. So if none of those type of things work, then the question is, what are you going to do? What is your response going to be? Well, here's a guy in Psalm 119 that made a decision. He decided something. And listen, this is a hard teaching. It's brief, but it's hard. Let's look at verse 30 through 32. Let me tell you what he decided to do. Here's what he said. I felt like lower than dirt. I have chosen the way of faithfulness. I've chosen the way of faithfulness. I have set my heart on your laws, not the advice of others. I hold fast to your statutes, the things that have stood the test of time. Lord, do not let me be put to shame. I'm going to run in the path of your commands, for you have broadened, enlightened my understanding about what really life is all about. This is beautiful. There couldn't be better advice given to you entering into a new year about anything. This guy's conversation goes from, and maybe you can relate, I wish I was dead, to, well, I believe that you're going to take care of me, God, and you're going to hold me up in order to get me through this. And again, I can't say this enough. I hope your life never gets interrupted. I hope all your relationships are smooth and easy. I hope nothing bad happens to those whom you love and those that you care about. But, I hope you never have to deal with any of that. I hope that you never get depressed. I hope you're never alone. I hope that you never end up in ICU or anybody that you love is there. I hope that you always have enough money and all that kind of thing. But more than all of that, I hope something else for you, because inevitably some of those things are going to come into your life this year. So my hope is for you, more than anything, is that you will remember Jesus' promise. In John 16, he said this. He said, listen, this is important. I have told you this. He had just told them, in this world you're going to have trouble. I have told you this so that you may have peace in me. That's exactly what Jesus did here before he was crucified. He pulled in his closest associates, his disciples, and Jesus told them what was going to happen. He said, listen, I'm going to go over there, and they're going to spit on me. They're going to beat me within an inch of my life. They're going to nail me to a cross, and I'm going to die. And he followed that up with, now I've told you this so that you can have peace in me. Everybody okay? No, we're not okay with that. That doesn't sound like anything that's going to bring peace, right? But he was telling his disciples that for the same reason that he's telling us that again today. Because here's what I want you to understand. In a few moments, this is reality. You're going to get up out of this room and you're going to walk out those doors. And I don't know what you're walking into or away from, but you're going to walk out there and your life on some level in the next year is going to get interrupted. For some of you, it may even fall apart. And everything that you counted on and thought that was true, you're going to start questioning it. Listen, I've been standing here in this location for 20 years, and I've seen it every single year. People who I thought were rock solid, something rattled their life, and we saw them no more. Gone. You're going to question it, and you're going to have a really, really bad day. And you need to remember this. You need to remember this. You, not according to my promise, according to his, you can have peace tomorrow. You can have peace tomorrow. He gave them two promises to remember. Here on earth, you're going to have many trials, you're going to have many sorrows. Life's going to fall apart on occasion. But he said, remember this, promise number one. But remember this, take heart because I have overcome the world. I have overcome the world. The second promise was and is this. No matter what you're facing, when that phone call comes, God says, if you follow me, I'm going to take care of it. It may not be the way you want it taken care of, but I'm going to take care of it. I'm going to take care of it. I'm going to take care of you. That was his promise. I am done with my message, so don't lose me for the next 2 minutes. If I were sitting where you are sitting today, and I have been, I would be thinking to myself, well, hold on a minute. Are you telling me that the takeaway for today is when something happens in my life, when my life falls apart, when I can anticipate these things happening, that what I really need to do is hold on to God really tight? Yeah, that's exactly what I'm telling you. And you want to know why? What else are you going to do? What's the other option? You're telling me, Sammy, that God will tell me through his statutes, his laws, his decrees, his word, what course of action I need to take? Yes, that's exactly what I'm telling you if you're willing to listen to it. You're telling me that God is going to take care of me? Absolutely, that's what I'm telling you. I mean, what else are you going to do in that situation except hold on to God? And here's the thing, even if you don't feel like it, and even if you don't want to hold on to God, he's still going to hold on to you. It's you that will make the decision in 2022 to either hold on or to let go of him. He's not going to let go of you. See, it all comes down to this. When your life gets interrupted, and it will, you only have two choices. There's only two. Follow God or fall apart. Follow God or fall apart. Now, sometimes those overlap a little bit, and that's okay. So what are you going to do? Not based on what you feel like doing, but with what you know now to be true about God and what he promises you. What are you going to do with that? Now listen, I sweat this past 2 weeks because, normally when I do the first message of the new year, I try to be, let's have goals and visions and sugar plums dancing in our head or whatever. And I'm not trying to be a downer on the first week of the year, but I really, after a lot of prayer, I really felt compelled as we begin this new chapter into the unknown of a new year with what all is in front of us. I really thought the best gift that I can give my friends and start a new year is to help them to be prepared and proactive about what inevitably is going to happen in the days to come. I mean, I think it's a better option than trying to flounder around after the tornado comes, right? We kind of need to be a little bit prepared, or at least as much as we can. And so that's my prayer for you this new year. I want you to take your communion out, if you would, at this time. I want to shift gears with you in this time of communion just a bit. Jesus said that we're supposed to remember some things, and we talk about that a lot when we take communion. And certainly I do want you to remember everything that Jesus has done for you, but I want you to remember what he did and how it's going to affect what you do. So I wanted you to take this time of communion today and reflect a little bit more on asking God to give you the strength in 2022, a new year, to do what you need to do based on what he has done for me and for you. So why don't you join me in taking the bread and reflect on his brokenness so that we could be whole. In his blood, so that we could have a right perspective. Father in heaven, it is with great anticipation we look forward to a new chapter, a new year. And we want to be optimistic and positive about all the good things that life has in store, and certainly there are lots of them. But I also want all my friends here to be keenly aware that we live in a cursed world. Things don't go the way that we always want, and life certainly is full of a lot of interruptions. And I would just ask, Father, that we make a decision on this day, a very, very, very important decision, that we all can look back and remember the decision we made on the first Sunday of the year of how we're going to respond when our life gets interrupted. So that sometime down the road, we just don't become another casualty of faith, but that we become someone who has put our faith in the proper things, namely you and your word and your sacrifice and your Son. Because people and things and events and places, they always let us down. They always come to an end. There's never much consistency in it, but you are the same yesterday, today, and forever. So that's where we're going to put our faith. So if anybody here right now is going through difficulty, Lord, I pray that they'll be reminded, no matter how they feel, no matter how low they may feel today, that they can choose, just as the psalmist, they can make a choice that can change their life for the good. We love you. We anticipate seeing you someday, and may we live faithfully until that moment. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
I love you, Lord. Oh, your mercy never fails me, and all my days I've been held in your hands. From the moment that I wake up until I lay my head, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. All my life you have been faithful, and all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God. I love your voice. You have led me through the fire in darkest night. You are close like no other. I've known you as a father, I've known you as a friend, and I have lived in the goodness of God. And all my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been so good, yeah. With every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. With my life laid down, I surrender now. I give you everything. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. With my life laid down, I surrender now. I give you everything. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. And all my life you have been faithful. And all my life you have been so good, yeah. With every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God. I will sing of the goodness of God. I'm gonna sing of the goodness of God. When darkness tries to roll over my bones, when sorrow comes to steal the joy I own, when brokenness and pain is all I know, well, I won't be shaken. No, I won't be shaken by fear, 'cause my fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. Shame no longer has a place to hide, and I am not a captive to the lies, and I'm not afraid to leave my past behind. No, I won't be shaken. No, I won't be shaken, 'cause my fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. There's power that can break off every chain. There's power that can empty out a grave. There's resurrection power that can save. There's power in your name. There's power in your name. There's power that can break off every chain. There's power that can empty out a grave. There's resurrection power that can save. There's power in your name. Power in your name. 'Cause my fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. Happy New Year. We'll see y'all next week. Thanks for coming.